So we know we have a lot of community health workers in the room right now, but everyone kind of adjacent to school district work, clinic work, working kind of in the social service field. Burnout is real, and so we kind of wanted to have a conversation about it, and Meaghan is just, that's what she's here for, so have a conversation, have an open discussion about it. So I'll give Robert spiel about Meaghan's background. She's the longest standing CHW in Missouri. What is it, 7 years now?
This will be the start of the 8th school year.
8th school year. So she was the first school-based community health worker in the state of Missouri, and they are our TA provider for Telehealth Rock. So they obviously have a lot of experience under their belts with the CHW work in school districts. So yeah, we're excited to hear Meaghan's experience with how she copes with burnout and what she does kind of on the self-care realm to help kind of avoid it. So without that, further ado, I will give it over to Meaghan.
Thank you. So I'm a very laid-back speaker. I don't do slides because I would never stick to them, so I just kind of like to have conversations, and so if anybody wants to put any input in, please don't hesitate to speak out or raise your hand and add to what I have to say. As Chase said, my name is Meaghan Opie. I'm a CHW in the Eldon School District, and so to give you a little demographic on Eldon, we're located right between Jefferson City, the capital, and Lake of the Ozarks. So we're kind of the gateway to the lake. We're a small town, about 4,900. We have a student population of 1,800 students in early childhood through our career center. We hit about 50% free and reduced lunch. We do have a lot of poverty. We recently have some more barriers to kind of go through with housing and things like that, but as a whole community, we are thriving. Our school district, I was telling earlier, used to be ranked 426th in the state of Missouri out of 500 schools, and this past year we are ranked in the top 25. And so I think it just goes to show that the supports that we've put in our school district have really helped build up our teachers, our administrators, and our staff, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Currently, we have 3 CHWs within the school district. I was kind of the lone ranger for 6 years. I was by myself. Robert actually hired me. He worked for the FQHC that I'm employed with, and he hired me, and he was like, "You're going to be a community health worker in the school district. Let's go." And so we kind of started at ground zero, and we didn't really know what that looked like. How did I get integrated into the school? Thankfully, I had been a teacher in the Eldon School District for 10 years, and then I stayed home for a few years, and then it was kind of time to come back into the professional world, and I'd been telling our superintendent, we need social workers, we need social workers, and he said, no, but then Robert came along and really sold it to Matt how important community health workers were within the school district, and so Matt said, "Hey, I've got a job for you," and so I went and met.
That's not true. Matt came to me and said, so the superintendent came to me, I was the CEO of the FQHC like this, and he said, our teachers and our staff are working so hard for our kids, but they're going to burn out. And I don't know, we've done so much, and we've come so far, and so the state of Missouri at that point was funding community health workers in clinics. So I said, how about we try this in your district? So Matt wanted this. He just didn't know what he wanted.
Right. So when I started 8 years ago, like I said, we didn't really know what it looked like, but Robert's goal was that CHWs are as much a part of the school community as the staff and the teachers are. And so that was really important at first, to delve in and become a part of the school climate. And I already was, like, I bleed maroon and gold. We wear our maroon on Fridays. We are very much a part of the school staff. And most of the people at the school don't even know that I'm not a school employee. That's how we embed ourselves into the district. When I first started, it was me, and then we hired 2 school therapists. Now we have a complete school-based clinic with a nurse practitioner and a nurse, and then we have a full dental clinic with a dentist, a hygienist, and 3 dental assistants. So we also see community members at that dental clinic, and then Jillyn, our nurse practitioner, will see our staff, staff's children, staff's spouses. She is the primary care provider for a lot of those people. So that kind of helps to take the stress off of our staff as well. So as we're talking about burnout, we as CHWs know that we help to do a lot of preventing burnout within our districts from our teachers, but how do we prevent burnout for ourselves? because our job is heavy. And at times it is, you feel like, am I making a difference? So really quick, I want you to think about, get a picture of that one kid in your head or that one family that you without a doubt know that you made a difference in their life. So picture that kid, get them in your head, keep them in there. So we have a lot of celebrations and we have a lot of successes, but we also have a lot of heavy things where we might sometimes feel like, are we making a difference? I'm going to give you a few of those examples, but keep that kid in your head, okay? Kid, we have poured into this student for 7 years. We have provided clothing and shoes and mental health support and medical care and food for his family and rides and sports team pickups and drop-offs and uniforms, and we provided for them, and he goes to a wrestling match and he steals the other team's jerseys out of their locker room. And the wrestling coach comes to you and says, this is what he did, and he's kicked off the wrestling team, and now he has all these repercussions, and you're just like, oh, have I made a difference? Have I helped this kid? You know, another kid. Got her on the path to go to her secondary education. She has a job. She's going to be an AmeriCorps member in our school district. A week before school starts, she comes to me and says, I'm pregnant. And you're just like, oh, am I making a difference? You know, another kid poured into several years, got his mom housing. I even went over, decorated, hung pictures on the walls, couches, chairs, cutest little home. The kid vandalizes our park, tears sinks off the wall. Now he's part of the justice system. He has a record. He's on probation. And you think, am I making a difference? So go back to that kid that's in your head. We have to celebrate those small victories. If you are helping one kid, if you're helping 2 kids, that is what matters. And so I always go back to the kid that's in my head. And that same kid that stole leaves tomorrow morning for basic training to go to San Francisco for the Marines. And so that is what keeps me going. And when Robert asked me to come and talk on burnout, he asked me like the second week of summer school, how are we all feeling? We're like I'm burnt out. But he's like, but you keep coming back year after year. And we're seeing CHWs that maybe aren't coming back because it's heavy and it's hard. And there's things that we can't solve. There's things we can't fix for kids or families. But all of the things that we do for these kids make an impact somewhere. Even if you're not seeing it today, even if you're not seeing it tomorrow, we are making an impact with what we're providing them. Prior, a lot of our kids were sitting in class, dental pain. Their parents don't value the dentist. They are not going to value the dentist, but now they get to go, they get to have these dental appointments. Our high school kids that once had bad teeth now have big smiles. They can smile, they take pride in themselves. Those are the things that make us feel really good that we can do for these kids, even if it's little. So when I very first started and I was kind of by myself, as I said, I integrated myself into the school as much as possible. I went to staff meetings. I made friends with teachers because I needed people. I needed a support team that you could lean on. I needed people that I could go to and be like, do you know what Johnny did? You know, I needed people that could kind of let me bounce things off of them. I could bounce things off of them. So if I had one bit of advice, it would be to find your people. Whether those are other CHWs, and if you don't have them and you're all by yourself, find those people. The school therapist, we were kind of all on the same team, so we would meet a lot and just debrief and kind of, this is what our day looks like. It's been hard, it's been heavy. Let's talk through it. That way we can all feel a little bit better. So I found my people. When I also started, I was a little bit unrealistic in what I could do because I thought I was a superhero. Like, I could come in, I could change these people's lives, I could, you know, recreate the family that they were a part of, I could change their living situation, but I can't always do that. So I want to be realistic. We can do a lot for kids, a lot. We can get them medical care and dental care and clothing and shoes, and we can make their school day be amazing, and we can even help their parents get medical care and dental care, and we can guide them to resources. But there are a few things that we can't change. And so we have to be realistic with our goals. And so I had to kind of step back and reevaluate. What can I do and what can't I do? And let me focus on what I can do and how I can help these families. And then we'll kind of look at the rest a little bit later. But I kind of just had to reevaluate. How many of you in your community's housing is a big deal right now? Like, how many of you are talking to parents and you're hearing these mothers cry and they're like, we have to be out Friday, or I need $2,500 by Friday, and there's nothing you can do about it. And those things are really, really hard right now for us, is housing. Christy and I, these are my two partners back here, Christy and Annie. So then I wasn't alone because Robert came back along again to save the day and gave me some partners to work with now. And so now we can kind of talk, and I have that team of people that we all do the same thing. And every day we're getting a call. What do we do about housing? And we don't have a solution for that right now. And those are the things that we kind of have to step back and be realistic about what we can and can't do. But we need low-income housing. That's our next project that we're looking at. But the third thing was this. When I first started, I gave everybody my cell phone number. Parents could call me anytime they wanted. I didn't set any boundaries whatsoever. I just let people call me whenever. I answered the phone at 8 o'clock. I answered the phone at 10 o'clock. I'd get text messages at 2 a.m. From parents. And I took all of those and I had to start setting some boundaries for myself and being like, okay, I'm only going to respond to text. I get texts on Saturday, on Sunday, and they would probably tell you that I'm still really bad about not shutting that off, but I just wanted to be available for my families. And so you really have to step back and make sure that you're protecting yourself from burnout, because you will eventually if you don't kind of shut it off and take your time. We talk a lot about self-care, being healthy, taking walks, reading books, doing all of those things that we love, and that is so important. But within your school day, ensuring that you have teammates that you can work with and talk through these things is just so vital. How many of you have been a CHW for longer than 2 years? 2 years? 2 years? Everybody's kind of fairly new? Yeah. Don't forget to always go back and celebrate those little things that you see happen for kids, because they are so important. One thing in the school district is, have you ever worked with somebody and a kid does something kind of bad and everybody just kind of writes them off and is like, they're just always going to be that way. And we kind of serve as that buffer to go in and say, no, we're not going to give up on this kid, because that same kid that messed up and stole those jerseys, he's going to the military and he's not going to come back to Eldon probably. He's going to go do something great because a few of us still had faith in him, because we turned the conversation into he is worth it and he is going to do something great and he is going to go away. And I just couldn't be more proud. That is the kid that's in my head right now, because he's leaving and going. And if you knew him 7 years ago, I think I taught Robert, it's the kid that walked 2.5 miles in the trailer park, back and forth every day. And it's just such a celebration that we are doing amazing work. And when we feel defeated and when we feel burnt out, know that those kids look to you as someone that is so amazing. And our families, we've had, I was telling them earlier, there's not a lot of families that we go to that don't open the door and say, come in. Our house is a mess, but come on inside. Because we forge those relationships, and that is so, so important for those families, to have people that believe in them, that have people that are willing to give them a chance. And so I am grateful for this line of work. I'm grateful to have become a CHW. I'm grateful for Robert and Chase and everybody and Sonita comes and visits us quite often. Eldon kind of has an open door policy. We love people to come and visit and kind of see the way we have things set up. Our community has very much embraced our programs. Our businesses are all part of giving and just helping do the work that we do. But it is heavy and it is hard. And I think at the beginning of the school year is a time when we can kind of start fresh. Do you remember like getting your new school supplies, and the start of a school year is so exciting, and how do we maintain that momentum? Rely on your people, be realistic, and set those boundaries for yourself. And then of course, self-care. Do the things that you love. Make sure you're taking the time. A lot of times if we're on a call and we don't have to show our picture, we'll walk while we take that call, just to make sure that we are taking care of our bodies and our minds and creating that space for ourselves. So any questions, any input about self-care? What are some things that you all might do to combat that burnout? Anything different?
So I have a question for the group who does this kind of work. So I know sometimes for us, you have these long stretches of days where you're constantly helping other people with these big, hard problems, and then you close the laptop and you go and you try to be like your partner comes to you with their thing, and there's not as much room now for all of that emotion or whatever. So how do you guys manage your personal relationships when you're constantly trying to manage the dynamics of all these other issues with other people?
How many of you have a spouse that really has no idea, like can't get on this? Okay, I see. Like my husband's in trucking. Like he does not get anything that I do. So for me to come home and lay that on him or try to talk about it, yeah, he gets it. I mean, he knows now after 8 years, he sees, and I will tell you guys, like I take my kids with me. A lot of times they're in the car. If I have to drop something off at home after school, they have seen a lot of things, and I really feel like it has impacted their lives as much as it has mine. But my husband truly does not know what my day looks like. He doesn't know how heavy it is. And so that's why those people, your coworkers, your team that know what you're going through, that's why it's so important. But it is hard to go home and shut that off and play with your sweet little baby whenever you're like, but Johnny, he has these things going on, And yeah, anybody else have any?
I have problems listening to like friends complain about things that are just trivial.
Yeah, you're like,
After I've been trying to help somebody who's homeless or going through domestic.
you're like, they don't have anywhere to live. They don't have food to eat. They don't have it. You're worried about
Like, I'm sorry, your kid yelled at you or something,
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Or sometimes I feel like my problem would be like I'm a talker, I am a lot of the times, but like when I'm done, so like by the end of the day after talking to so many people and, trying to help and make a difference with so many people, like I want to, do my nails and not to worry about it by myself, or I want to watch TikTok and I want to, just relax or, play with my cat or my rabbit and just chill and not be talked to. Mm-hmm. And like, so like my boyfriend won't understand, like, why don't you, like sometimes I don't reciprocate, conversation super well, and like sometimes it's
Because
just like,
all my give has been given.
Yes,
You know what I'm
yes.
saying?
So
That,
I
like,
struggle with that, like, and I recognize that, like, I, struggle with it, so I've, gotten better about it, but it is hard, when you're needed all day long, because sometimes you're just like, man, I really wish that I wasn't needed for just, a little bit, because you do have to give to yourself too, and it's hard to find that.
I had to do a lot of
balance.
self-talk and be like, okay, Megan, they don't truly know what you went through today. They don't truly know what you saw. And so a lot of times I will try to I get off work before my husband because we're, I'm school hours. And so I try to get home and immediately take a walk. Like, let me do something for me for a minute before I have to do all that. I have older kids, so they're in sports and they're kind of busy after school. I don't have to tend to the little ones anymore. But just do something for yourself for a minute, or just go home and just sit.
And that
in
is true,
silence.
because my boyfriend doesn't get off at the exact same time every day. So the days that I do get home before him and I have time to decompress by myself and do my thing without, then I am perfectly fine. When he gets home and he wants to sit there and talk about his problems, that might not, like you said, might be a little more trivial than
I know that
we
sounds
see on the
terrible because
day-to-day.
we all,
and yes, and it's you still care and you want,
Right,
but
right.
it's just man, you can't get the other thing out of your head. But yeah, the days that I walk into the house and he's already there and it's instant like that, then I'm more overwhelmed and okay, I need a second. I need just a second to breathe before I can start doing all of this.
I just say, I need 10 minutes of nobody needing anything
Going in the
from
bathroom,
me.
I'm walking myself in here for a minute, and I just
need
busy.
a little bit that nobody needs anything from me.
And I
then
had to
I'll be fine.
rearrange my home things a little bit. Megan, don't make it where you get off work and you have to go to the grocery store and still get stuff for dinner that night. You know, where you like try to plan out some of that stuff because it's too much to do in one day. You know, you kind of have to rearrange your home schedule a little bit. And when you have little kids, it is a lot because they do really need you. So when you get home, you are truly needed from the time you get up until the time they go to bed. And that is definitely tough. The very first year that I started this, children's division worker, we were working with a kiddo, and the conditions were deplorable. I mean, it was feces on the floor, it was no running water, it was just, in my eyes, it was the worst of the worst. And she said, just because they don't live like you do doesn't mean that it's wrong. And I thought, and it was just in her delivery about the kid, and I thought, she is burnout. And I don't ever want to be that way. I don't ever want to lose my compassion. I don't ever want to become hardened for these kids. You know, I don't ever want to look at a parent and, you know, curse them under my breath because they've done, you know, I don't ever want to feel that way. I don't want to be hardened. I want to keep that compassion. And so we do have to set boundaries. Guys, don't bank your 80 days of vacation. Take them. Take your days. Do some things for yourself. I always make sure that I take a day off before my kids get out of school, like for the summer, or even before Christmas break. Take a day and just make it be about you, where your kids are not there, even if you just stay home all day. Like even my boss, he takes off a day every year, and when is the soccer championships? Or February, I think, or something. But he takes off every year, a day in February, and he does nothing but sit in front of the TV and watch soccer. Because we have to do those things for ourselves. Our jobs are heavier than a lot of other people. And we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves so we can continue to take care of people. Yes?
Yeah. So have you ever dealt with a situation with a family or a kid that you felt like you just couldn't handle?
Yes. I mean, it was beyond my scope of like knowledge or what to do.
You didn't even know where to begin, and what did you do?
Yeah. Probably the ones that have been the hardest in that term is when a parent needs really crucial, intense mental health help and they don't see it and they don't want to go get help. And so how can I encourage them to help? They can never help their children until they can help themselves, because the mental health is impacting the cleanliness of their home. It's causing neglect of their children. It's causing, and how do I fix that? I have a home that I work in right now, and it's, I know there's drug use. I see it all the time. The kids tell me, there's severe drug use, there's drug dealing. The kids are running drugs for the parents. Like, I've reported it. Nothing is happening, and what do I do? And probably my biggest frustration sometimes is with some agencies that I can't get any further. I know it's happening, but how do I tell you this is happening without sounding crazy? Like, I'm sounding crazy, And so I think some of those things, but the mental health aspect of just encouraging and getting these parents to get mental health help is really hard, because a lot of things won't change until they are okay. When a mom's not getting out of bed for 12 and 15 hours a day, and kids are just on their own, it's not going to get any better.
So how do you decide that it's beyond you? I'm sorry, go ahead.
One thing I run into is we have a sibling group of 3, and we try to hold them accountable. We set up the meetings with them and that type of thing. If they're not home, or they went into the door, or they've left school, contact the parents, but the parents aren't holding them accountable, So we're like chasing them around, trying to find them, and it's just the parents we want to help them, but the parents are just like.
That's what Aaron asked us about attendance earlier. Like, what's the biggest thing impacting attendance? Well, a majority of the time it's the parents, especially when the kids are little, especially pre-K through, middle, even 6th grade. If your kid's not coming to school, it's probably because the parent is not making them go to school. High school, when we see the attendance things happening in high school, that's often chosen. That's a kid, they have just decided, like, they're done. Somebody has push them to the limit of that they're not coming back, and that's when we go out and they try to see a fresh face, give them a new perspective, insight. If we can get them to come back for one day and put some things in place, then maybe we can keep them going. But yeah.
Well, I can tell you, as that parent who didn't get out of bed So they were in bed, I was in bed, I'd put them on the bus and I would go back to bed. And then I would get up just in time for them to get off the bus. And for me, I have bipolar and didn't know at that point. So I'm riding that roller coaster.
So what pushed you? What made you go to realize that you had to do something?
For me, it was, one, somebody acknowledging the stuff that I was doing, because my self-talk was super negative. And the other was connecting to somebody else who understood and could, because especially with bipolar, people, oh, she's angry because she's in a manic phase, which, look, I have a right to be angry just like you do. But that depression, there is nothing good. You see that mask is there. And so having somebody slowly talk to me, the relationships you build are the primary thing.
Yeah.
Having that safe relationship. But also, if there's somebody else who has been in similar situations, who can empathize, because you can sympathize with me, but if you have not, it's not about getting out of bed. My body can't do anything at this point.
And I think it's bigger than just giving a parent a phone number, here, call and make an appointment. I have to sometimes make that appointment, and we might have to take them to the appointment, to go. And that is one thing I think that we do a good job on, is that even when probably in the back of our minds we know parents are really doing poorly, we try to focus on what they are doing well and compliment them. It takes a lot sometimes for a mom to reach out and say, I am really struggling, or a dad, I am really struggling. I know, but you are doing this so well. Let's look at how we can fix those things. And so just, even if in the back of your mind, or you're really angry at this parent because you feel like they're not doing their part, if we can, I have a dad that every time I hang up, I just say, thank you for all that you do for your kids. Thank you for allowing me to help your kids. Thank you for allowing them to come and see the nurse practitioner. And just always try, and every time I answer, he always does anything that I ask, or allows me to do the things for the kids that I ask, because I know he's not. But just by constantly building him up, we kind of have that good relationship there.
Well, and it's helping me acknowledge that I'm a good parent.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel like you're doing good. You're in bed, you're not doing. And so helping do that, and parents don't ask for help. And I'm afraid you're judging me.
Yeah.
And so, again, it goes back to that relationship, that gratitude, people acknowledging. And sometimes for me it was, hey, you know what, they've got this thing going on, and, Sean would really like to do that. How about we go for 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're challenging in those short bursts, and I'm going to do anything I can for my kids when I can.
Yeah. We've had parents really become empowered by allowing them to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to come in and pack buddy packs one day? That just empowers them to know that they have the ability to also help someone else. It's not them that always needs the help. They can do it also. And a mom woke me up to that. She said, I know you guys think that I can't do anything, but I ask you guys if I can help and nobody ever calls me. And I'm like, well, we need to do better. Let's empower you and show you that you can help us at the same time we're helping you also. So we really try. We have our kids, our students in our school district pack all of our weekend feeding program packs. And we try to rotate groups around, and it's different kids all the time, so that everybody has a chance to kind of give back and to make an impact, to know that they know what the packs are for, and they know, the kids that are using them. And so that's been a big benefit too, which I know we've kind of gotten off the subject of burnout, but well, yeah. I have to say, every program that presented today, Kansas is rocking when it comes to just supports and different things. Every one of these programs is amazing. Come over to our side.
I have a question. So you mentioned the youth who was going to the military and everybody kind of discarded. So I've got one right now who's been with us for a couple of years, in and out of the program, always makes these huge strides forward, and then I'll wake up on Monday with smart jail, so-and-so contacting you from the penitentiary, something had happened. And I'm trying to figure out how to draw this boundary, because I'm one of the only people that he trusts. but it's gotten to the point where like, I'm not sure how to move forward with this anymore.
Right.
Because and so when you talk about burnout, like one specific student over and over, riding the highs and lows, what's your advice?
Well, on that one, I think it would probably, if you cut him off in any way, or if you said, you would still think about him. I mean, you would still be worried, about what he was doing and things like that. I mean, you have to kind of have a personal, you either have to set that personal boundary and be like, I'm okay with him not contacting me, or are there any other supports you can maybe put in place for him, like other than you?
Yeah, it's kind of a tough thing at home too, and his mom has gotten to the point where they're not bailing him out anymore.
Kind of letting him.
He's kind of kicked out, and he's 18 now, and so yeah, it's kind of scary too. It's like a lot of kids are in foster care, It's like
What's
nobody's
next?
taught him how to be an adult,
Yeah.
and yet he's out without a net now. So like.
Yeah, and that's something we have a really hard time with too. Is this last group that we had that just graduated, we had several in that grade that we were invested with every day, and they graduated and they are kind of out on their own now, and we don't have a lot of support for them after. It's like if they're not going to school, which we do have a career center, and we try to, those kids that we know are in that kind of limbo phase, we have some career readiness classes that we partner with factories, and we know we can get them into the next, we know we can get them to at least work and then move on from there, but the supports after that are tough, that there's not a lot.
I just had this thought because of what Megan said. What about, okay, I need your help with something, and empowering him to do something that's gonna help Chase. Or, saying, I trust you with this, because I know this kid, and not many people trust him with anything, but you have that trust. But saying, I trust you to do this, because I'll tell you what, those kids with the most severe behaviors, when we would say, I trust you to help Sean, complete game changer, because people don't trust him. And so maybe I don't know what it would be, but.
Yeah, that's a good
The
idea.
other thing I would say is not every kid or family needs or gets the same level of attention. And there are some kids and families that maybe he's just your one. That's the time and attention that kid gets. And it's not, like this idea that it's one dose or one thing. I mean, you just have to make the decision. Like, maybe this one just gets all that, and that's okay. There's no rule.
Yeah.
One of the things, the first thing I tell CHWs from the very beginning is some families will always need you. We want to create, we want to help develop a feeling of I can handle my own things, I know what to do. But some kids, it's okay that sometimes there are special cases, not because they deserve more, but because they need more.
And there's something in that kid that you see that others don't, that he's still sticking around, that he's still clinging to you, and you aren't quite ready to cut him off necessarily, but you're kind of like, but you are seeing something in him that maybe somebody isn't. So hopefully that
He's
kind of
amazing,
carries him.
yeah.
He's amazing, yeah. He's amazing. Yeah.
And then he's not.
Well, I'm always like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's our job.
This idea that I fail if that kid still needs me. Some people are just always going to need more, and that's okay. And maybe you're his person, like you just said. He has no one else, right? You're the one constant in his life. Maybe that's okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Are you asking because it's interfering with your home life? Or are you asking because you're just not sure whether you can continue that way, or is it an interference with home?
I think if it were ever getting to be like a dangerous thing or something in my home life, I'd be okay with cutting him off per se. I think for me, I feel like I've explored so many avenues with him, and I also know that he can be so good, sometimes. And so I see that he's got what it takes to not need me in flashes. and I've also gone down many different roads and opportunities with him to where I'm feeling burnout, exhausted by future options. Like I don't know what to say anymore at a certain point. Like we've explored a lot of different,
Right. I
But
don't
it's
know.
not because he's like calling you in the middle of dinner every night or something like that. I would say, and this is just my 2 cents, which isn't worth much, but
It's worth at least 2 cents.
he may not need you to say anything.
True.
He may just need you to listen and know that he has your ear.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, I think he's probably latched on you because he thinks you're pretty cool. He definitely is looking up to you, and
Which means there's still hope. Because if he sees something in you that's inspiring to him, that's hopeful.
but with the kid going to the military, his recruiter, as soon as he recruited him at his mid-junior year, end of junior year, he really implemented him to talk to other kids about going into the military. And I really think that gave him a sense of empowerment. Like, I have the capability to talk to another kid about joining me, about taking this route and going, because this truly was really the only option for this kid. Like, the military is going to save his life. I hope that he makes it, but that just totally empowered him. And so maybe when he is having one of those really good spurts, you could implement him, like she said, to maybe be there for a younger kid or do something, in that aspect.
But always start with small boundaries too, like you don't want to completely cut them off, but just start with like maybe certain times of the day, just be like, I will be available for you, between this time and this time, but maybe between this time and this time of the day, I may be able to respond, I may not. Like I had a client who was very attached to me, and she was contacting me after hours, but I explained to her, like, I might be able to respond to you, but there are going to be some times that I'm not able to respond to you. And she was very, she understood, and she was very needy. She's, she means well. She's a great person. She has a lot going on, but I just think, setting like the little boundaries so they can kind of start recognizing, in general, because that's something that they need to know, because if he's doing that with you, eventually, even if it stops with you, it's going to move to somebody else too. So it'll help him learn, when maybe he is, being a little too much, or maybe you can set up, like a couple times a week that you guys just talk on the phone and you catch up for a while, rather than him calling you, every single day at, talking to you about his whole entire everything, which I don't know the exact situation, but start with like those little boundaries at first, and then eventually it'll kind of slow down a little bit, and they will feel more confident because they realize, oh, I can do this without him, like he's still, a positive person in my life. I still want to associate with him and talk to him and catch him up on my life, but like also I am capable of doing this alone too.
And you do have to set those boundaries. I just have a mom text me at 2:30 in the morning to ask if I could pick up her kid the next morning for school. And I'd be like, how do you know at 2:30 in the morning that you're not going to be able to get your kid up for school? But, obviously she knew it was 2:30 in the morning. She wasn't going to be able to get, but I just started telling her, I will pick them up, but you have to text me between 6 and 7 a.m. and let me know that I need to go get them. And if you don't, then they're going to miss school. Or something is, you have to set those boundaries, because I think that they do see us as readily available all the time. And
Community.
yeah, we're community. We're out there all the time. And if they have your cell phone or they have your, whatever, they just think that it's, and a lot of times it's just because they don't know that that's not okay. They don't know that. And a lot of our clients do become our friend, our friends in a sense. And so they're just reaching out to somebody to ask, like, hey, is my Medicaid active? Well, it's Sunday at 4 o'clock. I don't know, So, yeah.
Hey Meaghan, I've been visiting Meaghan for over probably
A few years,
2.5
yeah.
and I would check in with you about this one kid every time I saw her, and sometimes it was, he's doing great, and sometimes it's all over.
Yeah.
Everything's, occupied, he's not even here.
Don't even think I've never gone into my supervisor Aaron's office and been like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Blah, blah, blah. What are we going to do? And thank goodness he's there. And if you are a supervisor over CHWs, you have to create that for your people. And, outside the school setting or inside the school setting. And Colette was going to, I think, speak to that. It's just, Aaron, I have a supervisor from my FQHC, but I also have someone from the school side that I can go to and say, this is going well, this is not going well, I need your advice on this. Just so happens he's also been a school counselor, so he's really good at like, take a deep breath, Meaghan, and let's look at the positives here. And so it is important to have those people. But just to match up with people that are in your same field, because like I said, a lot of times our husbands, our kids, our parents, they don't get it.
Yeah, what's for dinner?
Yeah, what's for dinner? Do I have any clean socks? Like, yeah. So, well, thank you guys very much. Anything else? I think we could all visit for like hours if we just had the opportunity to visit.